Hello, sisters. Welcome to the Sacred Medicine podcast, weaving powerful, soulful practices into functional medicine. Step into this beautiful space of devotion and explore everything from nurturing foods, rituals, sexuality, and awakening your innate sensuality. It is time to own your radiance. This is the Sacred Medicine podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sacred Medicine podcast. I am your host, Margaret Romero, and I was so delighted to interview Sora Surya No today. And I must say that if you ever were curious about how a priestess lives her life a little bit behind the scenes of their own sacred practices, you're going to love today's episode. So Sora is this beautiful soul who just embodies sacredness. She really, really does. And so I knew I just had to have her on to just inquire, like, what do you do every morning? And what are your sacred practices? She truly, truly lives this gorgeously tailored, sacred life. I mean, like no other. So I hope you enjoy it, and on to the show. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the Sacred Medicine podcast. I am joined today by Sora Surya No. I've been so excited to interview her. We first met when I took one of her Sacred Circle courses, and it's an online course, and I just loved it. So let me tell you a little bit about her before we jump into our call. Sora Surya No is a sacred space holder, a transformative business coach, intuitive mentor, an international retreat leader, an inspirational speaker, fire igniter, heart whisperer, and world traveler. She loves to sit in ceremony with sisters and share the art of holding circle. She leads women through powerful experiences in her mastermind and on retreats. She blends real-world experience with mystical transformation, ritualistic practices, inner reflection, and deepening community to help soulful feminine leaders create great impact while priestessing their life. So welcome to the call, Sora.
Thank you so much. It's so lovely to be here. I'm honored that you asked.
Oh, thank you. So I created this podcast where I blend in functional medicine, which is what I've been doing for 16 years, and combining it with sort of soulful practices and rituals and spirituality and some sensuality. And it's also a side of me that a lot of people don't really know about. And so this podcast is a little bit of me coming out of the closet with all of that. There's a very deep spiritual side of me, which is why I really resonate and connect with a lot of what you do and your work. So what I would love to know, I'd love to start the call out by sort of getting a little peek into what are some of your rituals or sacred practices that you do sort of behind the scenes. Are there morning rituals that you do? Because I know of the beautiful space that you create when you have these retreats and all of that. And so what happens when you're alone and you're not hosting, a circle? What does life look like? I feel like your life is full of rituals, like day through night. Paint a little picture for us.
Absolutely. It's a really beautiful question. And there is definitely a sense sometimes when we look at women in the magical spiritual realm of the pictures that exudes this beauty that they surround and create themselves with, but then is it also the case behind the scenes, right? And I would say in the beginning when I first started that was definitely the challenge. But what I noticed for myself is as I continue to be more in alignment, more in integrity with what I share and how I create experiences for other women as a daily practice for myself, the more growth, the more grace, the more beauty, and the more abundance and flow that has entered my life. And so when it comes to what my retreats look like versus what does my daily life look like, it's not very different.
Oh.
Granted, I might not wear my flowing dresses all the time, and I might have my hair in a bun and wearing leggings and a sweatshirt. But in the mornings, I still go outside with my tobacco and my cornmeal, and I give thanks to Pachamama. I still sit down and with my rose water and my Palo Santo and my smudge bundles, open my space and sit in deep gratitude and go through meditation. I still go and look at all my different rocks and crystals and say hello to them. I usually in the evening take a moment to lay down in a yoga nidra kind of meditation and relax my body, say hello and good night to my mesa and all of my stones that are on my altar space before heading to bed. So even though there isn't necessarily this picturesque idea of what it could look like with flowers in my hair and feathers, coming down my ears, there's still a beauty and the sacredness that I try to exude as much as I can, even for a moment here and there throughout the day, that provides me a sense of groundedness and clarity, and a place of sacredness throughout what could sometimes be a day filled with a lot of work and a lot of connection calls or a lot of things that happen in the day-to-day world, including laundry and cooking.
Okay. I loved, when you were telling us about your morning and evening ritual, I could picture you doing all of those beautiful things. So, and talking about crystals, give us like a couple of crystals that you use that you feel are really important either to tap in or to heal. I know that there's certain ones to protect as well. Are there certain ones that you sort of recommend that most people have?
Sure. So currently I'm holding my moonstone. So a moonstone for me really just is deep connection to the moon and spirit, but also to sisterhood, to a grounding place of working from a heart-centered place with other sisters. I definitely always love having my mookaite because it's a grounding stone that supports the work that I do and allows me to feel rejuvenated and not tired from the connection and work I do with women. What else? I love my citrine because it provides joy and bliss. Not only is it around abundance and money and finances, but it's actually a sunstone that supports the feeling of joy in one's life. And so that's what I love about citrine. And then I feel like all sisters should have rose and rose quartz in their life. So whether it's spraying rose throughout the day to help them feel their connection and activation with their yoni space and their heart space, and having rose quartz to help support the heart opening. So again, not just a love stone to calling in a partner or a self-love, but love around the connection and universal consciousness of all.
I love that. And do you by any chance use the jade egg as well?
I have not actually used the jade egg yet. I know so many sisters who do and the beauty around it. I just haven't gotten a chance to get one for myself at this moment now.
Okay, I was just curious.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about how you work with women. I mean, there's so many really cool things that you do. Everything from being a business mentor, and now you have a really cool priestess school. It's out now, correct?
Yes, it is.
It already has started, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell me how you work with women. How are women incorporating their business with these sacred practices? What are you having them open up to?
Great question. So you're right. And the fact that I dive deep in the magic and spiritual realm as a priestess, but my place of commitment is really supporting women having a thriving business based on their connection and relationship with their divine feminine and masculine energy. And the principle about growing a business and being strategic and using your mind is in support and relationship with also hearing your intuition, knowing and being and trusting how you are aligned with the guidance of spirit, and also around deepening your own spiritual practices so that you have a better understanding of yourself, because self understanding and being in sovereignty of your own inner power supports the external life that you desire to create, including a thriving business. And so when it comes to me and how I work, it's all around embodying circle. So circle as an entity and a form and a spiritual concept within your spiritual practice every day, and how do you use that to guide and influence and support your different services, whether that's your online program or that's your retreats or that's your one-on-one clients or your mastermind. And I do that by supporting them on the business level, but also having them understand what spiritual practices, including energy work and priestess work, that will support them in diving deeper and uncovering themselves so that their truest essence and form is shared with the world.
How are you getting them to really tap in to listen and to their guidance, to their inner guidance? How are you guiding them? Let's say someone comes to you who really is not very spiritual, but sort of intrigued by what you do. How are you getting them to get out of their maybe very driven masculine energy into really sitting with that beautiful feminine energy and listening to that intuition? I'm trying to picture sort of not the exact steps, but how are you transitioning them from that masculine into that feminine?
Absolutely. So I think for me, it's also really knowing my audience. So really knowing the sisters who are feeling called to my space. And so, for example, where I am now, I rarely find that I am working with a sister who is still hesitant about the uncovering of the miracles and the mysteries of life. Many of the women who come to me are already well versed in the beginning introduction of spiritual practices.
Okay.
And so I'm not really serving necessarily the newbies anymore. And I don't say that regarding belittling it. It just means the people, literally the women who feel called and find me, aren't new. And so they have already been diving into this experience for, anywhere from 3 months to a year, but head first into it, really immersed, learning about different things, reading a lot of books. And now they're coming to me saying, okay, I think I know a little bit. I know that there's something greater than what I have been taught. I desire to remember. I am open to the experience. Can you support me? And that's when I meet them.
Okay. And I'm so curious to know how this all started for you. How did you know when did this all start? Because from when you were very little, did you used to work corporate before and transition to this? How did it all start?
Sure. I mean, like everyone, it started since before we were born. Like, I definitely know that I came in with a contract that looked different, and my path and my life as a small child didn't necessarily reflect what I am now. So I wasn't raised with a series of highly evolved witches who understood earth medicine or was working with tarot at the age of 8 or anything of the sort. I came from a very traditional Asian family, born and raised in New York, really feeling into and being ingrained in this idea of hard work, being a straight A student, going to an Ivy League college, having a professional career, getting married at the age of 26, having 2 children, like all of those things. And many of it I did actually experience and had created in my life because it was expected of me. But at a certain point, my body gave out, and my body was the indicator that something needed to change and that I needed to really find my own truth and voice and path in this world. And so for me, the true access point of remembering. So I don't believe that everyone is just learning and learning something new. I believe that what they're doing is accessing a memory and relearning what they already know that they've come into this world with, but have forgotten in this 3-dimensional realm.
I love that.
And so, thank you. So I started relearning everything probably in my early 20s when my back gave out, and I started doing yoga. And yoga was my gateway drug. It was the entry point, the portal into the mysteries that fascinated me. And so since then, I have been an active student in the mysteries of life. And so that's how it started.
And did you go to a priestess school, or how did you learn about all of the circle work? And did you have a mentor throughout this time as you were learning all of these new things?
Yeah, so I think for every single person, they have a specific path that they are supposed to go on. Mine may not look like other people's. So the way in which I worked is, yes, I had a lot of different mentors, but in different capacities around yoga and yoga philosophy. And then I did go to a esoteric mystery school in Guatemala. But then after that, I basically began to look for different teachers who provided a space for me to begin remembering, but I never felt called to find one teacher that I devoted my life to for years. I didn't find a guru. I didn't go to a mystery school for a very long time. I didn't go to a priestess school in that regards. When it came to circle work, it was told to me by spirit that I was supposed to start. And at that moment, there was no other school or person that I could find that was really doing the kind of work that I desired to do, nor did I know what it looked like, but there was no school. And so I actually had to just try it out. And so there's something about, for me, this idea of initiating and learning on my own and remembering and having information be downloaded through me that supported my learning, that sometimes looks different than others who might have spent years with, let's say, a healer or a mentor or a shaman. And so that's how it worked for me and continues to do so.
And I know you had some transformational shifts, it seems like, from what I read when you were on your recent trip to Peru. Can you share a little bit about that?
So I think my transformation always happens when you go to a sacred space. I go and do a pilgrimage to Peru quite often. I'm really enjoying the path of a healer and learning the Andean traditions to support the way in which I work within myself and to support other women. And so the transformation, I think, always occurs when you sit with Mother Earth and Pachamama, when you work with plant medicine, when you dive deeper into the connection and the information that the land provides you. And so I think this time around, it felt like a transformation in regards to an initiation of the unfoldment of my next step, of me evolving into who I was supporting and how I was serving the world that looked a little different than it had before that trip.
And was that one of the first times that you had tried the plant medicine portion of, your journey through Peru and all of that, or had you done that a few times already?
So I think there's so many different types of plants that are your allies. And so for most of us, I think there is a deep calling and connection to work with plants So whether that's through your garden, that's through the herbs, such as understanding women herbs, such as nettles and marigolds and calendula and all of those different
Mm-hmm.
herbs that supports your well-being. And then there is this curiosity for a lot of people on the shaman path around what does plant medicine look like that is different. So, for example, ayahuasca or San Pedro, which are deep medicines that people have been using to understand because plants are not there to provide anything but simple wisdom that has no specific ties, right? Like it doesn't have a shadow to it. It doesn't have an alternative motive. It is simply there to show you what is. And so I believe in that regards, that's something that, again, a lot of people are being open to, and research are being shown that it creates new neural pathways in your brain that no other living, breathing life form can. And it is a much more opening area to explore than, let's say, traditional medication. And so, no, it was not my first time in any of the capacities of plant medicine, but I honor all medicine that has to do with the land.
And how there's something about ayahuasca that it doesn't particularly call me, but I think it's, and my heritage is, my family is from Peru. And yet I have not been there yet as an adult. I was there as a child. So very surprising that I have not been. And I hear countless stories of women who go there and have these amazing experiences. And I have not been there as an adult as of yet. And there's something about ayahuasca that I don't know. There's a little bit of a fear for me to go there. And especially from some of the stories that I have heard, and not feeling great, and maybe, throwing up and things like that just feel scary to me, as if I have no control of the situation, which I'm assuming that you don't. You're sort of, you're not really in control, but there is somebody there, correct? There's always a shaman or two there guiding you, correct?
There is, yes.
And when you went, was it a circle of women that you took with you, or was it just you and somebody else?
So I think there are two questions that are lying there. So I just want to clarify for us and for the group. So there's this idea of going to Peru, but Peru doesn't have to be associated with ayahuasca. And so
True.
I think there is a deep resonance regarding going to any sacred land, whether that is to, let's say, somewhere like Guatemala, or somewhere like Thailand or Bali or Hawaii, or any place where literally the land is the medicine. And so I just want to be very clear that my love for Peru has nothing to do with ayahuasca. And ayahuasca is like, has turned into, let's say, this like thing, this like um, very sexy kind of thing, but it is also incredibly sacred. And
Mm,
so, firstly, I just want to mention Peru, because I don't think the conversation should necessarily only be dictated by ayahuasca, because I don't think that defines who I am at all. I think what defines me is more around my pulse and my deep desire to always be a part of sacred land, to help me understand what my connection is for me as one living, breathing entity around all. And I think my commitment to that is from being an inner city kid, from not being connected with the land very much, from being in the grind of New York City, and now coming to an understanding of all circles of life. And so being in Peru is something, my first experience in Peru was when I was about, I think, 22 or 23. And it was way before any of my spiritual practices. But as soon as I got there, I connected with the land so deeply that I knew I had to go and travel around Central and South America. My connection with Peru is something very similar to, let's say, someone else's connection, even though they're not Asian, might wanting to deeply understand, let's say, I don't know, Vietnam or Cambodia or somewhere else. Me being Asian doesn't necessarily mean that I really connect with, in a soul level, all of the Asian countries. But what connected me was this intricate energy and vibration of Central and South America, because something within me knew that that's where I came from other lifetimes. And so for any sisters who desire a strong pull to Peru, I would say absolutely go with the expectation of only doing that what feels right to you. And what might feel right to you is pilgrimaging through and up into Machu Picchu. Right? It might be learning about the Nustas and the different goddesses of the mountains. It might be understanding what it feels like and looks like to be part of the connection you have with, let's say, Lake Titicaca, or, all of those things to support your inner development and learning. Your pilgrimage doesn't have to do anything with but the medicine of being part of that land. So I just want to make that clear.
Sure.
When it comes to the other aspect of other types of medicine, I would say there's a deepening first in your own spiritual practices, and you will know if and when you are ready for more. Because like anything, let's say you think you want a tattoo, and all of a sudden you read about all these things about tattoos, and you notice that it's going to be painful. There might be a little blood. People pass out. People, have really bad experiences with a tattoo. They don't like what they've experienced. Like their ink doesn't look good. Like there could be a whole gamut of things that you find out through word of mouth, through other people, through documentaries. But at some point, if it's something that really calls to you, a shift will be made, and the information and resource that is provided to you actually feels legit and truthful, and you are activated and initiated into saying, you know what? I know that I will understand this experience, and it will define me by me going through the experience. That my place on this human world is I have free will, and my free will is choosing to have the sacred art be performed onto my body if it is a place of sacredness. So my tattoos, for example, are sacred. And so once I realigned with that, no one telling me any bad stories was going to shift my desire to get one. It's the same with, let's say, women and pregnancy. How many times have women said that they feel awful and scared about pregnancy, right? And then all they do is hear about these awful, scary stories from women about pregnancy. And yet when I speak to women about pregnancy based on where I am with it, not that I necessarily want children, but regarding the alignment of the beauty and the power and sacredness of pregnancy and labor and children, I only hear beautiful, empowering stories. I hear about full placentas. I hear about home births. I hear about the way in which partners support their women. I hear about the grace and the magnitude of wisdom that women have been carrying generations after generations. So I share that as a leeway into whatever your stories are about what you think is right or wrong is part and honoring of your idea, because you have free will to choose and to experience and have thoughts for yourself. When something feels in alignment and an opening, an initiation into a portal of the unknown that is for yourself, things will start shifting. And that's when you become a believer in trusting that the unknown is going to support you, because you are always being supported.
Well said. Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. And also, what about, I think there are a lot of women who are on this path and feeling very called into deepening their spiritual practice. Yet, I also hear them complaining a little bit about their partner, not so much. They who don't desire that or have any interest in it. How do you encourage women to sort of continue their path despite the fact that they may live with their husband or partner who doesn't really support that part of them? Because this is also new and sort of up and coming in her own life. And maybe she wasn't there when they first met, and now it's starting to bubble up to the surface. How How do you help women sort of stay on their path without being sort of pulled off it because their partner really isn't into it, or they think it's witchy or whatever it is?
I would definitely encourage all women to take a moment and go step by step, right? Like, I don't feel necessarily I have the right or the largest understanding to preach, like, nor do I ever want to preach. But what I would say is the invitation is that for each woman to take a moment and feel into what feels true for them, and that this is a great place of healing for their own inner child, for their own place as a woman in this earth, and for the daughters and sons that are to come after them, whether they birth them or not, but those that will come after. And there's a place of honoring one's sovereignty. And so I think it's an invitation to feel into and understand what sovereignty means for you, and how are you a stand for it without being negating someone else's experience. And what I find that the more and more work in identifying your own triggers and your own stories about what other people are experiencing, there's something within you that still feels it. So for example, what I mean is, if you are going in this work and let's say you are being deeply triggered because your parents are saying, "What are you doing? Are you a witch?" Something within you still believes that word or the association of what they said is wrong. And so for me, the invitation is never around changing the other person, but instead feeling into why that reflection is being provided to me and why it's causing that much discomfort and that much questioning around my own path. Do I really believe in my path, or do I not?
Right.
Am I in my power, or am I giving it away? And what I notice is that when women become very aligned with their own vision, and that takes time, especially if you're new, but once you do, the people around you begin to shift and they start being curious. Their questions aren't actually attacks anymore. Their questions are because they deeply notice a shift that is being made in your world, and they want to know how to do it too. And they're not quite sure how to ask, and it might come out a little prickly. And then the last aspect of it is then really understanding and having open, conscious conversations. And that's hard to be honest and truthful, but with a loving, compassionate way, and having more and more deep conversations with everyone around you, including your partner. And sometimes, most of the time, the person that we don't have that type of deep, conscious conversation are the people that are closest to us.
Yes, completely. Completely. Well, I've got 3 short questions to end our call. What is currently at your bedside?
Currently at my bedside is a candle. It is my iPad that I'm usually reading something on, and tissues, because I really enjoy making sure that if I have an emotional range and I need to cry, that I've got tissues by my side.
Beautiful. By the way, what one of my questions is, what are you reading now?
Beautiful. I am rereading Wild Feminine by Tammy Lynn Kent right now.
Okay, great. And what is one of your favorite indulgences?
My favorite indulgence is reading young adult magic fantasy books that usually has to do with witches or angels or things of the sort.
What was the last book that you read of that?
Ooh, I think it was called Blood and Bones. It's a trilogy.
Oh,
it's really good.
Very nice. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what's happening in your world in terms of retreats. And I know you've got the priestess school. Tell us a little bit about what's going on in the next several months. I know you have a lot going on. How can people find you?
Yes. So people can find me at sorasurya.no.com. And currently women are being invited onto what is known as the Sacred Circle Path. The first entry point of that path is a foundation course about really learning the art of circle and how to hold space for yourself in your individual practice and for others as part of your service in the world. After that is the School of the High Priestess is coming up again in the new year for the second semester. You don't have to have done the first, but it's for any woman who desires to be initiated onto the path of a High Priestess. And then after that is an opening for women to converge together in a mastermind with like-minded women who desire to be soulful feminine leaders in the world. And lastly, 2 retreats to Peru. One is around retreat planning and how do you understand holding retreats for yourself and being able to go visit Machu Picchu, be in a sweat lodge, really understand earth medicine in that way. And the other is to work with a shaman, deepening into their own spiritual unfolding.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
Yes.
And your puppy is something's, oh, you just stopped. Okay. Okay. So, and so that's your website. What about Instagram? Any other social media? Facebook? Do you have a Facebook group that women can go on, or are those only if you're specifically, taking a training from you?
Sure. So Instagram, you can find me at Sora Surya No. Once you get to my website, on the bottom, you should see all of my different social media outlets. So please go and take a look. And then I do have an open, beautiful group of women that come together on Facebook, and it's called Sacred Circle Collective. And you can find that also by entering your email address to receive my newsletter and a ritual kit. We shall also invite you into the Facebook group at that point.
Okay, great. And I'll include that in the show notes as well. Any last nuggets of wisdom that you'd like to share with the group before we end this call?
No, that is it. Dear sisters, thank you so much for taking the time and space to listen to us and feel into whatever is uncovering for you. And I look forward to connecting with you in the future.
Thank you so much for taking the time. Have a beautiful rest of your day. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. And for more information on Sora's amazing retreats and offerings, along with the show notes, head over to margaretromero.com/episode 11. And I also created a PDF for you ladies. It's called 6 Ways to Cultivate a Badass Life in Health and Business. So if you want to get that, go on over to my main website, which is called just margaretromero.com, and you'll find it there. And have a beautiful rest of your week, and I'll see you next week. Take care now. Bye-bye.